Bismillah, alhamdulillah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. My name is Aqil Ingram, and there was a time in my life when I was a student in the Islamic University of Madinah, and I wanted to share the experience with you so that you could know how it would be to have the experience for yourself. Today, I wanted to talk to you about the time that I almost got kicked out of the Islamic University of Medina. As for my story and how I got accepted into the Islamic University of Medina, well, then you can refer to the previous video where we discussed that. After I completed my first year in the Islamic University of Medina, I came home for the summer. And of course, you come home for the summer and eventually the summer ends and it's time for you to go back to school. Well, when we exit from the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, we have a return visa in our passport when we exited out of the country to come home for that summer. However, that visa, it does have an expiration date. So I go through my summer, and this particular year, I was scheduled to catch my flight to come back in September. About the second week of September or so, I was scheduled to come back. And what happens is, when we get right to the time, just a day or two before my flight was meant to depart, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that my flight was meant to depart on the 13th of September that particular year. Now, I started in the Islamic University of Medina in the year 2000, the 2000-2001 school year. So we come home for the summer of 2001. We get to September 2001. My flight is right around the 13th of September. And what happens on the 11th of September? Allahu Akbar, Subhanallah, Subhanallah. I remember that morning as clear as day, prayed Fajr, decided to come back in and take a brief nap after being at the masjid with the brothers for a couple of hours and this and that. And I wake up and I go into the living room and, you see what you see on the screen. You go to every single channel, and every channel is saying the same thing, showing the same thing. And I caught it when there was the first event right before the second event occurred. So we're right in between, and the world is trying to figure out what's happening. And of course, the Muslims are being blamed. So I'm like, Subhanallah, not now. I got to go to school. What is this? What's going on? All of this, right? So we're trying to figure all this out. And that's its own story. But the point is, this happens. And when this happens, everything shuts down. Everything is shut down everywhere. The phone lines aren't working right. It's not comfortable for us to go outside. I used to go outside like this, especially at that time. I'm in the thobe and my kufi going out and about. I'm being told to go back to my country, and people are cursing at me as driving by in cars and this and that. But no one actually stepped forth, right? That we didn't have that type of a problem in my particular area, but there were other peoples in other parts of the country, or maybe they had different backgrounds, if you catch my drift, that they had more challenges. And it was just some nasty business. It was some nasty business. So I get stuck in the country. Long story short, I'm stuck here. I can't get out. Flights are all shut down. Everything is, the country shut down. The country hit the pause button to figure this thing out. So eventually I have to figure out how I'm going to get back, because my visa expires. My plane ticket expires. And I have a wife with me that I have to figure out how I'm going to get her over there. Now we have double challenge, because now I have to figure out how I'm going to get myself and her over there, when just some days prior, my visa was sound, right? So I devise a plan. Now, I don't advise any of you to do this. This was in a different era, and what worked for us then would not necessarily work for you now. However, in hindsight, it was not the wisest move to make. And again, I wouldn't advise anyone to do what I'm about to tell you. So we knew of a way to enter into the country in a way that wasn't quite legal, okay? And we knew a way to get our wives into the country in a way that wasn't quite legal. Yet we could get into the country, and I've got to get back to school. So I utilized this way to get into the country. However, the visa that I was utilizing is not my student visa. I went in on an Umrah visa. And an Umrah visa has an expiration date as well. But there was no other way for me to get back to school. So we do this. We get into the country. It's a month later, after the fact now, right? We're in the month of October now. It's no longer September. By the time things lift up, I figure out a way to get back over there. You know, the airlines open up. I get tickets, all of this stuff. I get over there, and something very interesting happened. When I finally got to Medina, it was on a Tuesday, and I had gotten word from some of the brothers that our Sheikh Ubaid al-Jabiri, may Allah bestow expansive mercy upon the soul of the Sheikh as he has recently passed away, that he had his lessons that year in Sharh Sunnah of al-Barbahari, the explanation of the creed of al-Barbahari, for anyone that remembers that time. He was teaching this lesson in Masjid Uthman. So, or Masjid Dhun Nurayn, as some call this particular masjid, is just beyond the Prophet's masjid and Masjid al-Nabawi. So I go to the lesson, I see some of the brothers, we greet, sit down in the lesson, and alhamdulillah, I have my book, and we would begin, taking notes and benefiting from the Sheikh, and I'm back in Medina, I'm back to my studies, and it feels good. It feels good, right? These are the unofficial studies, though. My official studies are in the university. I still have to deal with that issue. So I get to university, and I speak with the mudir. The mudir is like the principal, right? So I speak to the mudir. I tell him my situation, what's going on. He was happy to see me and all of that, especially with all the different events that were taking place globally at this point in time. He was glad that I was back. However, he tells me, yes, of course we know you. Of course we know you're a student here. Of course we know you're meant to be in school, but we have a problem. I'm like, what's that, Sheikh? You said your visa. Your visa says you're here for Umrah. Your visa does not say that you are here as a student of knowledge enrolled in this university. So we can't have you in school unless you have a student visa. I'm like, subhanallah, what am I do? What am I do? What am I do? So we talk about this, and just so we understand the way that this particular country works, and many countries that are in these Gulf states, many of them are similar, although they're beginning to loosen up some of their policies and laws at present. But at that time, whatever reason you had to be in that country, then that means while you're in that country, you are only there to do that thing. And as soon as that reason expires, then you no longer have a reason to be in that country. What do we mean by this? So if you are there on a student visa, this means that you are a student in a university and you are studying. You're not there to work because you don't have a work visa. You're not there on tourism or visiting because you're not a tourist and you're not a visitor. Thus and so. Likewise, if you're there on a work visa, that means you're not a student. So you're not studying in a university, okay? And again, some of these policies and laws have some flexibility in them today, but this is how it was in that day. So what were we going to do? Well, I was told that what was meant to happen was that in situations like this, my visa is meant to be sent to my country, and I'm meant to go back to my country and then come back into the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and go to school. But that's not going to happen because I'm already in Saudi Arabia. I'm not going to go back to America where I just came from, just turn around and come right back. But that's supposed to happen. So technically at this point in time, I don't exist, right? I'm undocumented, okay, at this point in time. So they physically see me in front of them, but legally I'm not present. So alhamdulillah, some of the brothers who were senior to me, and they are shuyukh in their own right at this point in time. They have matriculated in their studies and through the university and have graduated, and some of them have at the bachelor's level, some at the master's and doctoral level. Some of these brothers, they helped me out at that time. They weren't at this level in their studies yet, but they were more advanced than me, right, by a long shot. So they preceded my arrival there, and they helped me to get acclimated when I first got there and would look out for me, right? So they helped me, and we made an agreement with the university that they would send my visa somewhere to some country close, and I could just go across the border, grab my visa, and come right on back in and get to school. So where do you want to go, they asked me. And I think about Kuwait, because at this time I had never been to Kuwait, and there were some scholars in Kuwait that I was fond of at the time, and I wanted the opportunity to meet them. So I said Kuwait. And they agreed. They agreed, and they were going to send my visa to Kuwait. But I thought about it again, and my relationship with students of knowledge and scholarship was much stronger in Egypt than it was in Kuwait. So then I changed my mind, and I asked for the visa to be sent to Egypt. And there was some agitation around that because we kind of already started in motion toward Kuwait. But nevertheless, the university agreed, and they sent my visa to Egypt. Now, this is just supposed to be like a couple-day trip, right? And I have my wife in Madinah in our flat, right, in our apartment there. And I'm going over to Egypt for a couple of days, get my visa sorted out, come right back, get in school, no harm, no foul. We're right back in pocket. We're right back in flow. So we do that. But first, I got to get out of the country. I am illegal in this country. I'm undocumented in this country. All that I have is an expired Umrah visa. So how am I going to get out of the country, right? The university, they put that on me because I put myself in a situation. Yes, we can send the visa over to Egypt, but how are you going to go over there to get it? That's on you, buddy. So what do? I find one of these shoddy cab services, all right? And we get into this cab. I'm in there with a whole bunch of other undocumented people who are there in the country illegally. And this old Monte Carlo, this white old Monte Carlo, we hop in the thing, and we're on these desert roads, these desert highways, as it were. He's driving bad. He's driving fast and loose, right? And that was what it was, right? Fairly young guy, right? Really excited and but not really careful at all, okay? So the way that is set up in that country is not like here in the US of A, where you're just on the highways and riding through. Maybe there's some tolls, but you ride through, and maybe you see a cop on the side of the road or something like that, but you're just driving. Not like that. In the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, there are checkpoints. And the way that we have police here in the United States of America, in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, the military and the police are more similar to being one body. So these checkpoints, it's the military. They got, they got the things that they got, right? So, they stop you there, and they're in their military uniforms and things like that, and they're questioning you and this and that, and I get pulled out. Right? Because what are you doing in here with these people? We can tell where they're from, and we kind of see where you might be from. You don't match with them. You need to come out, right? So they pull me out, and I get questioned. I get detained, and I get questioned, and this and that. And I tell the truth. There's no reason to lie about it, right? I'm a student in the university. It just happened in September, and I got stuck in the United States. I couldn't get out. And by the time I got out, my visa expired. So now I'm trying to correct that now with the university and with the government. But I got to go to Egypt to get my visa and then come back so I can go to school. I explained it to them. Now, after some back and forth, and they make their phone calls to some higher-ups and things like that, they let me go. They let us go. We continue driving out from Medina toward Jeddah. I finally get to Jeddah. I have a flight from Jeddah to Egypt, just over the Red Sea there, landing in Cairo, and I get detained again. I get pulled in the office again, and I get questioned and the whole 9 yards. Right? It's a thing. I'm in the country illegally. It's like, well, what are you doing moving around the country illegally? What were you doing while you're here? Why are you going out? Why are you not going back to your home country in America? Now, why are you trying to go to Egypt now? Right? What's going on with all this? This is not, and you're supposed to be an American. This isn't how Americans move. So I got to explain everything again, and it takes some time and all of this. I think I'm going to miss my flight, and it's getting kind of late in the day and all of these things. Eventually, they let me go. Fortunately, I had a gentleman that was pretty understanding, and he had respect for tulabul ilm, for students of knowledge and things like this. He let me go. Then I have to go through customs. And I go through customs. I hand him my passport. Clearly, it's an expired Umrah visa in my passport, and I'm not out of the woods yet. They can pull me right back in. I can get locked up, fined, all types of things. He looks at it, looks at me, looks at it, looks at me, and then he just takes it, stamps it, smiles at me, and lets me go. Alhamdulillah, right? I think he understood what it was. So I get on that plane, couple hour flight or so. I'm in Cairo. Again, I'm familiar with some of the students of knowledge from America who are living in Egypt at that time. They picked me up from the airport. We have a couple hour ride down to Tanta to my friend's house where I was staying for that period of time. Now, I'm not going to bore you with all the details of what was going on while I was in Egypt, although I really did enjoy my time there, and I really enjoyed the people of Egypt. Long story short, I'm thinking I'm there just for a couple of days. We call up, not get an answer. From Tanta to Cairo, it's a couple hours. We got to hop on a bus, and we go there, and we get to the building where we think we're supposed to be. They don't have my name. They don't know who I am. They don't have any visas. What are you talking about? The Islamic University of Madinah and the visa over here. Why are you here? Why aren't you over there? This whole thing. Nothing for me. So now I'm stuck in Egypt. So I'm not in the university anymore. My wife is in Medina, and I'm now stuck in Egypt. So we have to go through this whole rigmarole trying to figure out who's the right person that we're supposed to speak to. I'm calling back to the university. Did you guys really send it? Yes, we sent it. It's there. You need to get to this building, find so-and-so and so-and-so. We go to so-and-so and so-and-so on building such and such and such and such. That person doesn't know what we're talking about. We keep going through this and riding back and forth from Tanta to Cairo and speaking to different people and calling and this and that. We finally find the right person. He knows who I am. He's expecting the visa, but it's not there yet. Okay? We find the guy, but no visa still. So, long story even shorter, I get stuck in Egypt for some months. And I don't know what's going to happen to me. I don't know if I'm going to get kicked out of the university now. I can never get back into the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Do I just stay in Egypt? What I do with my wife, who's also in Medina now? She's in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia illegally. And if I was going to be stuck in Egypt, how do I get her out? Do I just go back to America and start all over again? All of this is going on, right? So got to have these pressures on me. But alhamdulillah, the months that I spent in Egypt, there were some positives that did happen. From them is that I was able to meet and sit in lessons and academic gatherings with some of the shuyukh and some of scholarship of Egypt that I had longed to meet and spend time with and learn from. From them is a Sheikh Abdul Azim Badawi Al-Khalafi. May Allah preserve the Sheikh. He was in the village of Sheen, and he's still there now. He's from the students of Al-Albani, rahimahullah ta'ala, and he's profound, particularly in the area of tafsir of the Quran, exegesis of the Quran, and I could go on about him and what I benefited from him during my time there. That would take us outside of our scope. Also, in Tanta, in the city where I was staying, Sheikh Amr Abdul Mun'im Salim, who is a muhaddith. He's a scholar of hadith, prophetic traditions, and he has many writings in varying different subjects. And I had the opportunity to spend some time with him. He actually would pray in our local masjid. So we would see him fairly often. We would go to his office where his library is at. We would have private sittings with him. We would discuss certain issues and things like this. That was interesting. And also, I was able to travel to Minsorah at the time, where a Sheikh Mustafa Al-Adawi was teaching at the time. And anyone that remembers, this is the time where Sheikh Mustafa Al-Adawi had just begun teaching his lessons in Fath al-Bari. Fathul Bari of Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani, which is the explanation of Sahih al-Bukhari. I was actually present for the very first lesson that he ever taught in that particular book, amongst others that we had the opportunity to interact with. There were some students in Azhar University who were actually shuyukh in their own right that were from Algeria, but of course they're living in Egypt and they're students in Azhar University. From them is Sheikh Abdul Salam, may Allah preserve him, and all of the sheikhs, all of the shuyukh that I spent time with there. Also Sheikh Khalid. Sheikh Abdul Salam, at the time, he was in the faculty of Sharia, and Sheikh Khalid, he was in the faculty of Quran, and he had already memorized the 10 qira'at, the 10 modes of recitation of the Quran, and he was very, very deep into the sciences of the Quran. So we go through all of this. I'm benefiting from them and getting in touch with the culture of Egypt and things like that. It's a totally different vibe than what I was used to in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, but it's cool, right? But it's cool, and I'm enjoying it for what it is. But I still have the pressures in the back of my mind and that weight on my shoulders about, okay, university, my wife, what am I going to do? How am I going to get back? What are the next steps going to look like? Eventually, my visa reaches the country of Egypt in the embassies that they have there, and I'm able to collect my visa. Long lines. What we're used to in America, we're used to, like, there's when you're handling some business, maybe there's a line and you stand in the line, or you have a number. There is order, there is prioritization, there are levels of urgency. All of these things exist, and all you have to do is pretty much just wait your turn, and you'll be served, and you'll work through whatever it is you need to do. Not in this part of the world, not this way. I mean, fawda, ma'ma'a. I mean, just chaos, just confusion, disorganization. It's just a mob of people. Ain't no line. And people come and cut in the line and push people back, and they get to the to and fro, and subhanallah. But alhamdulillah, we get through all of that. We get the visa, and I had bonded with the gentleman, the student of knowledge that I had been living with for those months, and I was so sad in leaving him with how close we had gotten at that time, that when he finally took me back to the airport in Cairo to get back on the plane so I can go back to school, we actually both cried, right? We actually both cried. It was a moment. But alhamdulillah, I go back to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. I get back to Medina. I get to see my wife again and things of that nature after not being able to see her for months. And it was a rough time for her because I'm in Egypt. Of course, I'm not working. There's only so much that I can send over to her for her to take care of things where she is. Alhamdulillah, many of the brothers and the sisters, the students of knowledge that were in the city of Medina, Westerners, they looked out a lot for my family and myself while I was going through this. They were very supportive. And at the end of the day, this took up almost the entire of the first semester of college that year. So I missed that whole semester. So I was meant to be in the third level of the Arabic program in the fall semester of the 01-02 school year. But I wasn't able to be in school because I was dealing with all of this. So when I got to the second semester, the spring semester, I did the third level of the Arabic program at that time. Now, from the benefits that I received from this, I would say that this semester here, where I was not in school, the only thing that was for me to do was to be in my library and to get deep into my studies, get deep into the Arabic language, reading books, reviewing, memorizing different mutun, memorizing different manuals, and getting into writing, being out sitting with the different scholars, and really learning how to be a talib ilm, really learning how to be a disciple of knowledge, reading books on the adab, the epistemology of the student of knowledge, the etiquette and the manners, the methodology of the student of knowledge. I was able to glean all of that from this particular time period. So I'm very grateful that this did occur, that I went through this. There are things that I was able to achieve, that Allah knows best if I would have achieved them if I did not have this particular experience. I am very grateful that things did sort themselves out and I was able to get back into the university with the proper documentation so I can be properly enrolled to continue on with my studies. And that is how I almost got kicked out of the Islamic University of Madinah. Now, if you would like to have this experience for yourself, well, you can apply to university and try to get in, but maybe you did and maybe you couldn't get in. Maybe you're too old, or maybe you have responsibilities here, take care of your family, you have to work. Maybe you did get overseas for a period of time but couldn't stay. Maybe you learned some Arabic but not enough. If this is you, well, I have something for you. It is called the Madinah Student Boot Camp, where we have taken the experience of the Islamic University of Madinah that we had and taken the actual courses that we learned in the Islamic University of Madinah, and we have packaged it for you, and now it is available to you at your fingertips. Push of a button wherever you're at on the planet, and it's all in the English language. If this is something that is of interest to you, then just look down in the description there. You'll see it. You got to apply to get in, and we'll talk about it, inshallah ta'ala. If this is you, it exists. I don't know that this has existed in our country before in the English language for our people, but it is available now. So let me know what you think about this type of content. Let me know in the comments, what ideas do you have? What type of things you want to hear about my experience in the Islamic University of Madinah? And we'll do our best from the ideas that you give us to keep conveying this type of content if it is something that you want. We'll see you again next time. Barakallahu feekum. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.